So, riding horse. So again, just standing in the field of gravity, and it's a vector field, so it's streaming, it's pointing down. And just try and let it in so you feel it pulling inside your body as well as on your body. And so that sinking field of gravity should quieten your mind. So if it doesn't, then the mind is too noisy, it's neurotic, and we need to work on it. Yes, the riding horse is eminently double-weighted in the sense that I have a line of symmetry, so both sides are doing the same thing. But because the feet are sort of spread a certain wide distance apart, what it does is encourages each side to fall into the foot, so you get this feeling of the two sides of yourself separating out. So it's single-weighted in that sense. So what we want to get away from is this sort of sense of an ego, of this sort of authority on high that is holding me together and giving the body orders. So here we're just relaxing and just letting that just flow away and just come into the body. So as the body splits, it flows down. Now what we don't want is this sense of flowing out like this. We want a sense of flowing and down and grabbing the ground. So the thighs have to be really open, the knees out, and very much in the outside edges of my feet. So feel the spine. So everything is being channeled down the spine until it reaches the sacrum. And when it reaches the sacrum, it splits out into the legs. Okay, so now let's just rub the hands. So just relax the shoulders as you do this, because they tend to bunch up as you exert the arms. And then just place the hands either side of the sacrum. And so it feels like the energy from your hands is seeping into those joints, but also something is coming out of those joints and into your hands. So it's that energy that's coming out that we now want to just bring down the legs. So just pull away from that place, keeping the hands sort of quite firmly on the body to the hips, and then just go down the legs. When you get to the knees, press the knees in with your hands and out with the legs. So your legs are really pushing out now. And then go down, and then around the ankles to the inside of the ankles. And then up, and now press out with your hands and in with your knees. Just relax the shoulders into it. So all of these positions you can hold for a good minute or so, and then back up the inside of the thigh until you're right in the fold of the groin. And then using your thumbs, just cut around that fold, like you're cutting up a carcass of meat. You're just cutting around that until you get back onto the sacrum, the sacroiliacs. And now again, just relax the shoulders. Relax the back. So the belly is pulling in a little bit here to help squeeze some of that down-end energy out of the sacroiliacs, because that's the energy we're working with now. And then bring it round to the iliac crests, to the top of the hip bones, and then down, pressing the knees in with the hands and out the legs. Just relax the shoulders. And then down, trying to squat down rather than just fold from the hips. Around to the inside. And then pulling the energy up from like your instep, just up the leg to the knees, and now press the knees out. Stick your bum out behind you. So you should be able to look ahead quite easily now. And then back up to the soft part, the inside of the thigh, to the groin, and then just cut around the groin with your thumbs until you're back on the sacrum. Pull the belly in a little bit to push the sacrum back into the hands. And one more. So across, down, squatting as well as bending. Now pressing in with the hands. And then down to the ankles, around the ankles to the inside. And then just drawing the energy up from the instep of the foot, up the inside of the leg to the knee, press the knees out. Relaxing the shoulders. And up to here. And now just up to prayer posture. Okay, and now let's just go up and down a few times. So gradually get more extended. So each time the hands go a little higher, and you feel it just getting higher up the spine. Keep the legs relaxed and keep sinking through the legs. So this is just an exercise to sort of straighten the upper spine, which tends to hump over a bit. And then just really stretch, and then just pull the head right back and look up. So feel the energy coming up the front of your body and down the back. And then just bring the head forwards and try and look down. So now you're stretching the back of the neck, so the energy is now coming up the spine and going down the front of the body. The chin is pushing right into the thymus. So open your mouth in order to get the chin really rubbing on the chest. And then just bring the hands down. Okay, so now let's just try some of those qigong. So just up, hands out. And now bringing the hands together. And now just folding the hands in into prayer posture. And again, up and out. Round to the front. And through. So just feel the air. And so swimming in air. That's how Chen Manqing described Tai Chi. Great. And now just back into riding horse. And so when you allow the sinking to quieten your mind, so the reason we have a noisy mind is to keep the world out. So when you see a person with a noisy mind, it's like they have an aura that's pushing the world out, like a sort of private space. So when the mind quietens, then there's three things that manifest. One is that you feel heavier, because gravity can now get inside you. So you just feel really weighty, hefty. And secondly, you feel atmospheric pressure. So you feel as though you're being squeezed because you're no longer pushing everything away from you. And then thirdly, you just feel the air, you feel the viscosity of the air. So to actually move through this air is like moving through water. There's resistance to everything that you do. And that's the way it should be. So it's that resistance that actually arouses the spirit, the energy, the real vitality. Yeah, so what we're looking for all the time in our normal lives is comfort, if you like. It's a situation where we don't have to work. A situation of ease. And the problem with that is that there's no stimulus to the spirit anymore. The spirit just falls asleep. And it's a bit like being a zombie, you know. So the noisy mind is normally pushing the world away. When it quietens down, it just feels like you're sucking everything in. You become like this. There's actually a force towards you rather than a force away. And then you just have to learn to deal with that. Okay, and now let's just relax. So we're just going to go up and down. So just relaxing into the legs, really spreading across the back here. And now to come up, what do? You just drive the heels down into the ground, and that will bring you up. So just imagine you're standing on a surface that has some give in it, like on the wet sand at the beach. So your heels sink into the sand. Yeah? And now to let yourself down, you just relax. But we want to relax into this bow-leggedness so that our outside edges grab the ground. And then just squeeze and press the heels down into the ground. Yeah, so you want to feel the rising, a consequence of the driving down. So whatever we do, the effect that we get in touching, the visible effect, is always a side effect, it's always a consequence of doing the opposite. So I'm pushing down, and that is bringing my body up. Now I just relax, making sure these stay out, and then I just press down again. So all the time feeling gravity streaming through me. Yeah, so it's when you're coming up, that's when you feel gravity the most strongly. Because that's when you're fighting it. So here I really have to squeeze up through this field. And then this is easy, this is just relaxing. And again, just driving down. Whoa. Yeah, so, normally for students, this is the difficult phase. The going down is the difficult phase. And then coming up is like a real relief. So we want to get away from that. This is the relaxation phase. And this should be really difficult because I'm being pulled down against that all the time. And then this is, I'm just relaxing. And then press. Relax. Press. Relax. Yes. Relax. Okay, so remember that everything that we do, every simple repetitive action like this is a version of pulling the belly in of this exercise that we do. So we just want to feel that. So just let yourself down. Now, as you come up, it's a bit like pushing the belly out. Yeah? So you're tensing the muscles at the back here. And now to go down, you're pulling the belly in. Belly is pulling in a little bit. And then here, pushing up, pulling in. So everything's coming in. The legs are bending, the arms are bending, the spine is bending. And then here, everything is straight. Arms, legs, spine. Pulling in. Pushing out. In. Pushing out. So just feel the hands. So the hands are really spread here. And then as you let yourself down, as you pull yourself down, you clench the hands. But what the feet doing is the same thing. So the toes are pulling towards the heel. The same way the fingers are pulling towards the thumbs. Yeah? And then here the toes open and splay, and you just drive your heels right down. And then as you pull yourself down, you sort of rock onto the front of the foot a little bit so the toes can become active. And just pull. And then out. Pull. Okay, now let's just bring it to here. Just more, so don't worry too much about going up and down now. Just so each of these centers, belly, heart, and head, has got a front and a back. So this is tightening the front of the belly, but relaxing the back of the belly, which is the lower back. And then this is tightening the back of the belly and relaxing the front. So tightening the front, relaxing the back. Tightening the back, relaxing the front. Tightening the front, relaxing the back. Tightening the back, relaxing the front. Pull, relax, here. Tighten the back, relax the front. Pull, relax the back. Tense the back, relax the front. Pull, back, relaxing. Okay, and now let's feel this one. So the heart and the back of the heart. So basically when this tightens here, everything just pulls into the chest. But you really feel the shoulder blades widening and the back flaring. Yeah? And then you just pull the elbows back and pull the shoulder blades together. And this really opens. Yeah? And then pull the chest in. And then pull the shoulder blades together. Pull the chest in. And pull the shoulder blades together. Yeah, so I'm pulling the chest in order to release the back. And then I'm really tightening the back between the shoulder blades to release the chest. Pull in. And back. Pull in. Out. Okay, now the same thing with this point. So the point in the head is a little bit more sort of abstract, but it's exactly the same thing. So in order to tighten the front, I just sort of furrow my brow as though I'm worried about something. So you just tighten here, screw the face up, and just feel the back of the head around the opposite, just stretching open, like it flares open. And then you just tighten that point that was flaring open, just pull the neck up and just tighten the back of the head and just feel this opening here, and then pulling it all into the front of the head. And then just pulling it all into the back of the head. Front of the head. Ooh. Back of the head. Front. And back. Front. Back. Front. And back. Okay, now we just want to do this exercise that we normally do, but run through these points. Yeah? So to pull the belly in, so we start off pulling the belly, and then you pull the heart, and then you pull the head. So you're really almost curling up into a ball. And then to go the other way, you start on the lower back. So start pulling there, and then move to the middle back, and then to the back of the head. And then you come back to the belly, so pull the belly in, and then tighten the chest, and then tighten the forehead, and then move to the lower back, tighten the lower back, between the shoulder blades and the back of the head. Belly, 1. Heart, 2. Head, 3. Lower back, 1. Middle back between the shoulder blades, back of the head. 3. Belly again, belly, heart, head, lower back, middle back between the shoulder blades, back of the head. Belly, heart, head, lower back, middle back, back of head. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now just back to riding horse. Now the spine should feel really, sort of whippy, like it can transmit energy really well. Okay, so now let's just try rotating the head. So again, just getting the spine fluid in all directions. We just try and keep the movement even, so there's no sudden jumps. So when it gets too easy, you introduce tension to slow it down, and when it gets too difficult, you introduce relaxation to speed it up. So you're just trying to keep an even passage. And we're just trying to keep the hips level. So this isn't really affecting the hips, it's just the shoulders and the head. And then just change direction. Away. You should find the circles, they can get bigger and bigger because you get more loosened up into it. Yeah, so by the time you've been doing this a minute or so, it's almost dangerous. You can really lean back. And then just slowly wind it down. And then you're back into right force. So now it should feel really sort of like your spine is just full of movement. You know, they say in the classics, it says that the spine, it should be like the trunk of a sapling, like a really young tree that can just, it's so supple, it can just blow and not take any breeze. So they use the image of the gale just whipping this sapling around and yet blowing the old oak tree over. There's like an image of why strength, hardness, hard strength is basically unuseful. Let's just relax these a little bit. So just sending your tailbone out and then just relaxing here. So it's the same really, it's just tightening the belly and then tightening the back, but we're working more from the hip joints here. Because the hip joints really, it's the first place you start working on when you get into sinking. Yeah, so in Tai Chi we make a big fuss about getting the bum in, which is basically this phase here. Like I'm sort of this shape. So the yielding phase. But unless you can actually let your bum out, there's little point in actually pulling it in. It's in all the time. So we need the ability to just go down by breaking here as well as the knees. Yeah? So this can just relax and I just go down like an inch or two, simply from relaxing here. And then I can just try and keep that elevation as I let the buttocks relax down the back. So 4 and 2, 1, 2. So when you release properly, it should be challenging. It should be sort of emotionally challenging. It should feel really sort of, oh shit, I've just taken it a bit too far. Yeah, so it affects the heart as well as the body. So your reservoir of feeling. So you are. And yeah, so one of the reasons this is so strong, this action here, in terms of getting you closer to the ground, is because when you break here, you also break at the ankles. So the ankles do the same thing, and you just hook back into the heels. So you actually sink, by breaking at the hips, you also sink from the ankle. And without the ankles relaxing, you never really get your foot on the ground. It feels like it's on the ground, but it should. So when your foot is properly on the ground, it feels like it's in the ground. There's no surface anymore. It's just gone right in, like you're stuck in mud. Yeah? And it's this release here that just enables these feet to just descend into this muddy surface. So, okay, so now let's come back to here. Yeah, so you should be able to just standing riding horse and just release here. Feels like your tail is going out behind you a little bit, and your heels have just gone straight down, yeah, into the ground. Yeah, so for that, we just need to sort of conceptualize the feet a bit differently. So we normally think in terms of the leg coming down and a foot sticking out in front. Yeah. Now, if you actually look at the human leg, it's actually not quite so simple. The leg comes down and the heel goes back and the toes come forwards. So the actual leg actually comes much closer to the middle of the foot than it does to the heel. Yeah. So what we want to try and feel is the heel hooking backwards and under the ground like this. And you can see that to make that connection with the heel reaching backwards before it cuts under and scoops up, that's basically exactly the same as this action, as just releasing here and then releasing the buttocks down. So when you get this rolling action in the hips, it's also helping you get into the heel in the proper way. Okay? So basically, let's just try. There's basically, the feet have got two figures of eights. Yeah? So you've got one like this. Yeah? So you've got one, let's just try. So we're just doing little turns here, just to trace a figure of eight around the foot. So I'm going around the heel. So here I'm trying to pull the toes in, and then here I'm trying to push the toes out. Yeah. So there's a figure of eight going on the flat plane, on the horizontal plane in my foot. And this is coming from sort of wrigglings that are happening here. So 1, 2, around the heel, around the front, the toes, around the heel. So it goes through the toes from the little toe round to the big toe, and then back into the outside of the heel, around the back of the heel to the inside, and across to the little toe. Yeah. So you're just enclosing the foot in a tight figure of eight. And where the figure of eight crosses in the middle, that's where your leg is. That's where your leg comes up. Yeah, so we want to feel that the heel is like a thumb. Yeah. So it's more like the 5 toes are more like the 4 fingers, and the heel is actually more like the thumb. So if I'm doing this, and so the heel is going, the thumb is trying to go in the opposite direction of the fingers. Yeah, the thumb is trying to go back, and the fingers are going forward. So the same thing here. The thumb is the heel is trying to go back and cut under. Yeah. So I just want to get this figure of 8 going first in order to loosen the foot. And so just feel what you need to do in the hips, in the waist, and in the leg to get this, and then just going into the other, sort of twist. Yeah, so it's not enough just to see it in your mind's eye. I mean, that's just the beginning. You have to then get it really into the body. So eventually it just becomes a really physical task. You're really tightening and twisting and so this is the toes going out and then around, and then this is my heel going back there and cutting under and around. 1, 2. Yeah, so it should be very muscular in the sense of all these sort of small internal muscles, which are used to get ripples of energy passing through, rather than muscles which make my gross body move. Okay, now let's try the figure of 8 now on the vertical plane. Yeah? So basically what happens is my heel cuts back and under, and then the energy comes up and over the top of the foot, down the toes, up to the heel. Yeah? So I'm getting a figure of 8 on this plane now. Yeah? Through the feet. Yeah? So we can do both at the same time. So I'm going over the toes, and then under the ground, and then up the instep, back into the heel by tipping here, and then rolling this under to get the figure of 8 to go under from the heel, and then up to the middle of the foot, and then over. Yeah? So you're just making this sort of rocking action. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Again, it's just pulling the belly in and pushing it out again, but using that to get something happening real in the foot. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Under the foot, over the heel, under the heel, over the foot. So 1, 2. And then just back to here. And again, just releasing here. And now let's just go down by tightening, by pulling the toes, clenching the toes. And so pulling the belly in, making fists with the hands and making fists with the feet, like your toes are trying to pull towards the heel. But remember, the heel is just as active as the toes. So the heel is cutting under and trying to pull towards the toes as well as the toes pulling towards the heel. And then I just open the foot and come up. So now pull it. So we did this before. Maybe not quite so explicitly. 1. And pull. Push. Okay, now we want to pull now and just come off the heels. So just come onto your toes, yeah? So it's difficult. So we're just looking for ways of intensifying the experience. And basically what I mean by that is introducing spirit, introducing vitality and real excitability, and then just slowly let the heels down and come back up. And then come back down again. But as you do so, you just rock onto the front of the foot, and the curling toes sort of help the heel come up. And you should be able to really settle down. Make sure your tail doesn't go out, because it should be coming under here. And you're just off the heels. So just feel what you gain by coming off the heels. You gain spirit. You gain a shake, a tremor of life, of vitality. So when I come up and I'm on my heels, then I'm earthed. All of that sort of vibrating energy can now just drain down, and the earth will just soak it all up. So if you want stability, then you come into the heel. If you want energy and spirit, then you come into the front of the foot. So when we're doing Tai Chi, we're just constantly recalibrating that balance, if you like, between the back of the foot and the front of the foot. Okay, now let's go down again. So just coming onto the front of the foot and just come off. Yeah. This is what I like in ballet, you know, they're on their points all the time. Yeah. So they just have this shimmer, they're casting beauty into the world simply by being on their toes. Yeah. They're not just taking it down and into the ground. So it's a bit like that. And if you can just keep it going, so the longer you hold it, the more you shake. Yeah. And then just rock down. And now it should just feel really sort of peaceful. And the peace that's felt after the storm. Okay, so let's just go down one more time. So I'll just sink down and just pull the toes and let the heels really come up. So now you're full of spirit, full of mischief. Yeah. So in Christianity, spirit and energy are the devil, basically. And if you think, you know, the way the devil is depicted, he's basically a goat with horns. So, you know, those sort of herbivores, they're on their toes all the time. Their heels are off the ground because their heels are halfway up their calves. Yeah. So they're on this toe energy all the time. And that just keeps them on their toes. You know, we have that saying, don't we, in English? You know, when you're ready and you're raring to go, you're on your toes. So you're ready to, you're eminently responsive. And then just back up again. Okay. So let's just try one more, and then just try and feel what we're looking for all the time. We're looking for getting rid of the ego, basically. So what that really means is that the two halves of your bodies dissociate. So if you think of like a pianist playing the piano, what they say is that your first real breakthrough in piano playing when you're a kid is just learning to dissociate the two hands. Because normally if you do something with this hand wants to do exactly the same thing. Yeah? So to learn to allow the two hands to be independent of each other, so they can both do different things. Yeah? And that's what we're looking for. So it's a bit like, if you go dancing, dancing on your own is a completely different experience to dancing with another person. Because when you're dancing with another person, you have to cooperate and coordinate with them. So there's a new energy that's been introduced due to the presence of you harmonizing or trying to harmonize with the other. So there's that energy, that coordinating energy, that cooperative, coordinating energy that we're looking for all the time. So that can hold us together rather than having to clamp everything and give orders from on high. Okay, so let's just go down one more time, coming off the heels. And just let it get to that point where the two legs are sort of wobbling like this. You can't keep them locked together anymore. The strain is just too much. So they sort of split apart. Now, in order to allow them to split, you have to allow that spirit in. You have to allow that possibility of real fight into the body. So when you're dissociated, you're in a much higher energy state than when you're locked together. And then just the difficulty is getting them down. And then just rocking back onto the heels. So this is like a real relief, but it's a relief you deserve because you work really hard preceding it. Okay. So now what we want to do now is just get into a little bit of turning. Just see, where does the turning come from? So what does it introduce? What does it produce? So first, let's just go down, up and down a few times. So sinking and rising. Letting myself down into the feet, and then pushing the feet against the ground to rise up. Down. Bending the legs, straightening the legs. Bending the legs. Straightening. Straightening. Okay. So now basically turning is straightening the legs but not allowing yourself to come up. So if you've gone down, so now I have to straighten both legs but not come up. So what happens? It will actually twist the hips. So this leg is pushing the ground that way in order to push this hip this way. And this foot is pushing the ground that way in order to push this hip this way. So normally when we straighten the legs, it pushes the hips upwards. Now we've got a rule, and we're not allowed to come up. So we turn. So that's basically a turn. Now what you want to feel is the front leg, because it's the front leg that's important, really. So you don't want any sense of flopping into the front leg, because then you'll never get energy out of it. So as you're twisting, this is pushing you in that direction from the back leg. So you want the front leg to be pushing back. So it's this break here that we've been working on that's all important. And then I can get energy from the front leg to come round into the opposite hand by just wrapping around my body as it comes up the spine. And now to actually come out of that turn, I just relax like I was flopping down before, and that will bring me back to the front. So this is a low energy, a low stress state riding horse. Now I press the ground. I'm trying to push myself up, but I push and just allow myself to turn instead. So feel this outside edge of the foot, you're just driving into it in order to push the body back. Yeah? So this leg is trying to push my body in this direction, and this leg is actually pushing through that into this hand. Yeah? So just feel the two cross energies. You've got the back leg, which is pushing in this direction, the foot. And so the thrust is actually coming up the leg to the spine and then across into this hand. So this is quite straightforward because I'm pushing the foot this way and I'm getting a push coming out in this direction from the hand. So it's very straightforward, just use third law of motion basically. Now the front leg is quite different because here I'm pushing the ground that way. So I'm actually pushing my body backwards with the front leg. And I have to loop that around so it translates into a push from the hand in the same direction. So this is what's difficult about the front leg. So just feel that. Feel this leg trying to get you forwards and this leg just holding that and using that holding energy to actually supply a stream into the back hand. So when you turn and you're in, this is basically bow and arrow posture. Yeah? And if anything, bow and arrow posture is stronger when you actually have this foot here pointing in rather than forwards. When you have it pointing forwards, some of the energy is released. Yeah? So a lot of people, a lot of martial artists will have this foot in because it protects the groin. So they'll be like this. Yeah? So we just want to feel this thrust and feel this thrust. This thrust requires my back to arch backwards, and this thrust requires my belly to pull in and my tail to come, basically my tail to hit that foot. Yeah? So you can just feel how complex bow and arrow posture is, a posture that we've had to turn into. That if we relax, now if you just completely relax now, just let everything relax and you'll just slowly just drift back to the front. And now let's turn this way. So first of all, just really sink down into the legs and then push the ground and just feel that turning the hips. So the important thing is to get the hips square to the direction you're facing so that the back hip is in the action. Yeah, so you don't want to be in jabbing mode, which is this. Yeah, you want to be in front foot mode. And to be in front foot mode, you have to be pushing yourself backwards with the front foot. Yeah, so this is what's tricky about it. So you should feel really twisted and full of torque, full of twisting energy. And then just release that. So just slowly just let it go. Also let this muscle relax here, let this relax here. And you'll just slowly just swing back to the front. And then just feel how different this feels. This feels decidedly flat compared to how it is when we twist. So let's go sink down again and turn in this direction. So just sinking down, loading the legs like springs, and then just letting that spring energy push the legs apart. And get this torque, this twisting moment into the spine. Yeah, so a lot of the power depends upon maintaining this width, this relaxation across the sacroiliacs, basically. Yeah? If they tense up, then you've got into that mindset of an ego telling things what to do. So this is very much the two legs cooperating with each other to produce this twisting. And then just release. Ooh, ooh. And then again, just dip down a bit to load the legs, and then just push equally. This leg is pushing this hip round, and this leg is pushing this hip back. So you should really feel the legs are really working, but differently than normal. And you should, just really feel that sort of spiral energy coming, especially up the front foot, because you've got this whipping action to get the energy out from here. So the back leg is relatively boring and straightforward. The front leg is really interesting. So, and you need two tails. You need a tail this side that is reaching down into my back foot. And I need a tail this side that is slipping down the buttock, down the back of the leg, and into this foot. So the two halves of my body are very different, full and empty. Yeah. So the full side, remember, is the yielding side, the side that's sort of collapsing. And the empty side, the side that's full of the energy, is actually the other side, the side that's extended. So here I've got a full leg emptying its energy into an empty hand. One. And then just release it. Ooh. Okay, let's try one more. So first of all, load the legs. Just imagine your legs are like two springs and someone upstairs has just pushed down on you. So you've just been pushed into these legs and then the legs push back. But they produce this turn because there's no other way to go because you're not being allowed to go up. So voila. So this is going down like that, and this is coming around like that. So it's quite this beautiful posture. And just don't lock it. Yeah? If you want the mind to wander, then you have to lock and start just giving orders. Yeah? So I want to keep these two legs dissociated but cooperating. It's only then that you'll get that shimmer of spirit manifesting in the upper body. And then just release it. So just ooh, ooh, and back around to the front. Okay, let's leave it there. Good places, isn't it? Okay, great.